Here we go. I'm starting it.
Mhm. Hello, welcome.
Welcome.
We'll be starting in just a little bit, just giving time for all the participants to make it in. But welcome to Sustainable Foundations 101 and 201, um, generously hosted by WACIF. And I'm Liz Whitehead, Impact Advisor at the Fehlig Group. Our president, Mary, is going to kick us off here in a little bit. Um, yeah, we're looking forward to answering any of your questions and going through what sustainability means for you. Do we want to give it another minute? Or I see Patrice is here, so good. I'll call on her later. Do you want to give it a minute, or it looks like people are still joining, Tina, so maybe we'll give it like another minute or two.
Sure.
Looks like people are popping in.
Looks like Patrice does have a question in the chat. Dina,
Okay.
for the answer to that.
Will that allow for her to speak? Let's see. Hmm. Oh, I don't know. That's a good question.
Yes, they can speak, but I have to give the permission.
Ah, okay. Great.
Yeah. Webinars yeah, that's how we do, that's how it's done. The host has to allow them to speak.
Perfect. Okay. So
Yeah.
we'll do that, Patrice, when the time comes. Um, okay. All right. It looks like we have some critical mass here. Do we want to get started? All
Sure.
right. Great. So we're going to start with a welcome from WakeIF. So Megan, take it
Yeah.
away.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Megan Karras. I'm the Chief Development and Communications Officer and the Head of Sustainability at WACIF. So we're thrilled to bring you this training delivered by the Fehlig Group, experts in sustainability, small business. A little bit about WACIF and our commitment to sustainable entrepreneurship. So about a year and a half ago, we launched the Sustainable DC project. You can see a link in the chat to our website, which describes the project in a little more detail, but it really is our commitment to supporting small businesses in their journey through sustainability, whether they want to implement more sustainable business practices or pivot into the green economy space. We're kind of here to help. And so we've engaged a range of different trainers and experts in the field to deliver offerings for you all. So here today we have the Fehlig Group who will support with the 101, 201 training. So handing it over to you, Liz.
Great, thank you. And so here's our agenda today. Mary, do you want to start with the agenda and we'll go from there?
Absolutely. So Liz and I are going to tag team, and hopefully we'll get to a point that we do have some time for questions and answers because everybody's always heard me say the best information when it's an answer to a question. So um, we're going to, introduce ourselves, but really my job is going to introduce what is sustainability and then a little bit about what's expected of you from your clients and from your customers. And then Liz is going to introduce us to one of the Wake of Sustainability ambassadors, and she's going to talk about her experience. And then we're going to move into, certifications. What does that mean? Who, why, when, how do we even get our head around kind of a overview and introduction to certifications, and then basically how to get started. Of course, we're going to leave you with lots of resources. It's a lot to depart to share, but we really want to get you started and get you going on and welcome into this conversation and kind of start a foundation to include you in this important work of sustainability, both embedding as Megan said, embedding them into your business practices or actually pivoting your company as into offering a product or service in that lane. All right, next slide, please. Let me brag a little bit more. That the Fehlig Group has been doing this for over 33 years. And I do want to say we've been working with major corporations, like the Marriotts and the Fannie Mae's and the Biopharma, AstraZeneca and BMS. So we've been doing this for a long time. But the thing that's exciting is that right now, what we're seeing is that what's really happening is that they really want to embrace their full value chain. And that means all the small and medium-sized businesses that they do businesses. So that's where the activity is that how do we now bring the whole ecosystem, whole business ecosystem into this conversation? So there's a lot going on in terms of helping that relationship between big corporations and the suppliers. But there's also an awful lot going on. It's just, I keep saying 30 years just so I can get some credibility on perspective that it is here and there is so much energy in terms of consumer preference, in terms of sustainable companies that show up either it's with sustainable practices and sustainable products. And Liz, I'm going to if I may, put some words in your mouth. The partnership with Liz is because first of all, both Liz and myself, we have companies that are B Corps, which is kind of the highest standard of she'll talk about this as certification. But Liz really has built a career and has a lot of experience in one. What do small businesses need? What is that landscape look like? How do we be there for them? I was just bragging about all these big companies. She's helped us pivot to make sure that we're relevant for the value chain, for the small and medium-sized businesses. So she brings that expertise as well as to the Fehlig Group. So I'll let you build on that, Liz, but I had to make sure I bragged about you.
Thanks, Mary. Yeah, so that's me. My company is 12.5. I also do work with WACIF on their certification, in their certification space. So you might have seen me at a certified up program. But yeah, like Mary said, really wanting to help you use sustainability, one, understand sustainability and how it works for your business, but then use that to drive your business forward as well. So, really showcasing your sustainability to potential partners and clients. And we'll get into that a little bit more.
All right. So what is this? And now this term sustainability was really coined in terms of the business context back in 1987. And what it is that how do we do things now that benefit us but don't hurt future generations? How do we be, how do we make sure that whatever are meeting our needs today are not compromising the needs of future of the future? Next slide, please. But it's been given a lot of names over the years, triple bottom line and corporate social responsibility and good corporate citizens, social impact, so many words. And these are just, I don't even think this is inclusive. But I'm going to say the one that I kind of hold on to is it's all about sustainability. I go back to that first lens of sustainability. Once investors got involved in it, finally, took them a while, but once they got involved in it, it really came and they wanted to make things really neat and said, they came up with the acronym ESG, and that is environmental, social, and governance. And so that's the term that so we really use them interchangeably. I encourage people to use sustainability, also known as ESG, or ESG, also known as sustainability, but you're going to hear both those words being used in this field of responsible business practices. Next slide, please. But let's look a little deeper. So what are we talking about here? We're talking about, and I kind of say I get nervous about using an acronym because, what does that mean? Sometimes acronyms get misused because basically, are you a good steward of the earth? Are you taking care of the environment and how you use your energy and water and waste and what is your relationship with the physical space that you have? That's the environment piece of it. Also, planet. What's your relationship with the planet? So that's the E. Another dimension of sustainability is the social, which is the people. But so that's ES. The S, social, is all. So that's where diversity and inclusion, how you treat your people, human rights, your labor conditions, it's not only the people that work for you, it's the people you work with, it's the people, and it's also this is where your relationship with the people in your community. So there's a lot of aspects under the dimension of sustainability that reside with the pillar, if you will, of S. And G, governance, it's a little bit, it's interesting. It does kind of include a couple different things. It is about, well, how well are you managing it? So that is a bit of profits. Is it governed? Is it really embedded into your business? Are you, you know, uh, are you managing these business practices well? But then there are also kind of very specifics. The sustainability kind of in this pillar kind of addresses your ethics, making sure your data is secure, you're being transparent, both with your investors as well as your other stakeholders. And then specifically, it is about your relationship again in your business relationships as opposed to your community relationships. And that falls under the pillar of governance. So those are the three main pillars of the dimensions of sustainability, and that's why the investors have given us the acronym of ESG. Right. Next slide, please, Liz. But a real important thing here is that you want to, first and foremost, I've got to include a slide going forward. What are your values? I just gave you a whole bunch of topics. What matters to you? What are your values and how do you live that so that your business is mission aligned? And fortunately, a small business, it's pretty aligned. It's our businesses. So, but then, so you want to stay grounded in that because you're going to look at these things. And we find this so many times where people go, of course I do this. Of course I recycle. Of course I look at, um, I have, um, I use local and diverse suppliers in my supply chain. Of course, I do these things, but we now need to be capturing them and understanding that they're under the lens of sustainability. And then you want to go out and look at the other relationships, your other stakeholders, and find out what matters to them. The term we use in this space, if you're talking, it is called materiality. And that's how you find it out as you go out and talk to your stakeholders. You look at your customers. The customers are willing to pay more for products, and also customers, if you're working with if you're really primarily a B to a capital C, a big corporation, they have big goals and they need your involvement in achieving those goals. But you also want to talk to your suppliers. I know a lot of people. We've had clients in the past that are, and we still do with clients that their supplier is Patagonia. Well, needless to say, sustainable business practices are real important to them. These are they're down the supply chain, they're in the value chain, and they want everything to stay aligned. So your suppliers are an important key stakeholders. Right next to you, I would say it's your employees. In terms of one of our pretty material and an issue that we pay a lot of attention to is our environment and all the ways we treat the environment. Is it, do we have as big an impact as a construction or a manufacturing firm? No, but it matters to everybody that works with us and then everybody we work for. So, and us, specifically. So we put a lot of attention into that issue area. And of course, and governments and investors. These are just, you want to go and ask questions about what is expected of us. You want to what matters to them matters to you, and that's how you define your materiality. Liz, do you have anything to add to that about materiality?
I think we'll get into it more when we talk about like the certifications and what different companies are looking for. So I
Okay,
think that's
great.
a good start.
But, we're talking about there's this new business imperative. It's called responsible business practices, and we've got this acronym, but I cannot stress enough that it's not a trend. This is good for business. And that's what we found out, that this is a business strategy. Again, I'm going to call on 30 years. We said this is happening. Exactly what was supposed to happen is happening. This is progressing. And so that's why WACIF is doing what it's doing. That's why Sustainable DC is happening, because this is a business imperative now. And why? Because the consumer demand, it does add value to your brand. It should, and it does contribute to your profitability. It's, and I think these business practices attract and retain talent. We do presentations. Just yesterday, I did a presentation for Capital One, and there's a lot of, and there's a lot of, I find the employees who can speak to the good practices that are going on by Capital One that just makes them be proud that they're there. So, I would, and they can say, this matters to me. So not only in attracting employees, but also retaining existing employees. Again, it's a differentiator for your customers. I am going to say, it's going to, um, price, quality, service. This is one of those differentiators out there. And again, innovation, it provides opportunities for new ideas. And then, kind of, it's not just it is the right thing to do. But again, at one point we just did because it's the right thing to do. Well, no, we found that it is sustainable because it's also very good for business. And that's what we've been proving over the last 30 years is how it does. And that's when the investors finally got involved and went, oh, this is really good for business. Okay, next slide, please. So this is just to give you some bit of, we're going to give you a little bit of a window into what do companies, if you're dealing with if you have to report to one of your customers, what are some of the common corporate expectations? And they are looking for your energy and your carbon, your energy and your greenhouse gases. Just what are you using? And that matters because they have to report theirs as well as your energy usage. So one is they want to make sure you're being responsible if they're being responsible. So if you're seeing a customer that's talking about this, they feel a responsibility that their supply chain needs to be engaged as well. And that's what I was saying when I first introduced myself is this is where an awful lot of activity is going on is these companies now are stepping into the space of, okay, we feel like we've not that it's all done, but we've got a good handle on what we're doing. But now to really have the impact that we're responsible for, we have to look at our full value chain. And that's their relationship with their suppliers. Professional services, construction companies, facilities management, all the different food sources, everything kind of matters in these conversations. So what they look for is the carbon energy usage, ethics and transparency, and diversity inclusion. So those are kind of three key areas that we help category managers and corporations find out how do you get that information from your suppliers, and we help the suppliers make sure they can then report it back in a way that, communicate it back to their customers. Okay, next slide. But then I think it's also important because not everybody is business to business, B2B. A lot of people are B2C, business to consumer. And so we want to go, what are the consumer expectations out there? And I'm going to encourage you. We just cherry picked some of again, we've been doing this for decades. And I haven't done it yet, but after I gave this presentation yesterday, I said, I've got to go back and say, what did I say these numbers were? 10 years ago, 20 years ago, because this is phenomenal. 80% of consumers will pay more for eco-friendly products. That's huge. These are huge numbers in terms of the changing habits of and the attitude towards sustainability. And yes, it's about having a product, but it's also about being a company that's sustainable, that has embraced and communicates their sustainable business practices. Anyway, so yeah, and then one of the, one of the things I also want to pull out is that look at next gen consumers. 80% of them are considering sustainability as an important business purchasing decision. So needless to say, this is an expectation of this is here, my lens, it's here to stay, but it's pretty significant. And this is a great research link. You're going to see these blue links here, and then we're going to leave you with a plethora of links to be curious with and explore. All right, Liz, where do we go from next slide? All right, I'm now going to say, that was the goal of theirs to give you just a real broad brush overview of what sustainability. It's been around for a long time. As I said, this term started in 87. And what exactly are we talking about? Just a broad brush and for Earth, people, and then how well you've governed that, and some of the and the profitability, the business running of that. And then also just to make sure everybody understands, this is not just it is a values-based, right, good thing to do, but it also has to be done in a way that benefits your business. So it really is sustainable. Um, and that's where I'm going to, okay, but now, okay, those are great words on a page. How is this actually actualized? And that's where I'm going to turn it over to Liz.
Yes, and I am going to bring up Patrice Chappelle from Melon Brand Skin. She is one of WACIF's sustainability entrepreneurship ambassadors, and just what, and she's going to talk about just kind of what Mary was saying. Mary talked about, what are the corporations looking for? What are your consumers looking for? What are the material things that are relevant to your business in terms of environment, social, and governance? And so now we want you to see how another WACIF client was able to make it work for her business. So, Patrice, do you want to come on? Can we hear you yet? Not yet. Let's see. Well, they figured that out. Oh, there you are. Are you
Yes,
here? Great.
yes, I am. Hi, everyone. It doesn't look like I can come on video, which is totally fine. But I'll be here audio. My name is Patricia Powell, and I'm the co-founder and co-CEO of Melon Brand Skin with my son. He's 15 years old, and we launched this company because when he was a lot younger, we could not find any skincare products that were adequate for his skin. So, like, say around age 7. I'm just extremely grateful for the opportunity to share my experience today with you all. It was a true pleasure to work with Liz and Mary and the rest of the team with WACIF on my Pulse report. It was just an eye opener and a truly amazing experience because prior to receiving the Pulse report, prior to meeting with Liz and kind of walking through like the sessions where she gathered all the information, the data, and really just the story and background of Melon Brand Skin, I had no idea how we were being sustainable, the areas that we needed to improve upon. And so it was just a really good overview to understand the whole process. We did this report last year. It didn't take very long for the team to compile all the information. They sent it over to me in PDF, actually a PowerPoint, and they were able to walk me through. So like you see the gap analysis, they explained what this means for my brand, ways in which like in the environment aspect of things, how we are sustainable. And it was just really good to see like, okay, so we are, using the proper packaging, like packaging that's BPA free and all the things, and just understanding the ways in which like you see water usage and pollution. So we're not quite there yet because we don't have a brick and mortar, we don't have a warehouse yet. That is something that we would like to have within the next couple of years. But the good thing about this report is that it shows you the areas in which you need to work on and before you get to that point. So like say if I would be in a brick and mortar now and we're not meeting these goals or what we want to do for our business, I have this prior to. So when we map that or have that roadmap that we want to lay out, we can just follow this and this will give us a closer glimpse of what that needs to look like. As well as like social. So like, for instance, I just want to share this. I haven't shared this publicly anywhere else, but we're getting ready to be in our very first retail space in the DC area. It's a launch pad. So we'll be in there for 3 months to try everything out. So like employee well-being and development. Well, that's something that I don't have any employees, but we're literally in the process of getting ready to staff up, our team and hire employees that will be working for us in this retail space. So I will go right to this gap analysis, right to this report, and I'll be able to pull out, the ways in which we're able to become sustainable. And we have this prior to. So that's kind of like case in point of how we are able to utilize this before we get to those different areas and, not roadmap, but, milestones within our business and our journey. It was just really good to see like, different ways we can become certified. So like Liz mentioned that she'll be covering B Corp. That is something that we want to eventually get to. We were able to become Leaping Bunny certified by way of Liz giving me all of the information that we needed in ways in which, okay, we're sustainable, we're vegan, we're cruelty free. I would have never thought that in a million years, I mean, I'm just being honest, that we would be able to be Leaping Bunny certified, because I never looked into it. I wasn't that familiar with like the whole certification process. And just knowing like, wow, we're actually, we are cruelty free. They did all the research, and we sent the paperwork from our manufacturer, and we were able to get certified. And it was a wonderful experience working with Leaping Bunny, the Leaping Bunny program, to the point where even today, like literally, I was up late last night at midnight, and I'm sending them, all my information because we're getting ready to do a giveaway. And they responded back. It was like 11 or 12 last night, and they were responsive at that time of night. So that's very unheard of. It's a wonderful partnership. And I would not have learned of that if it wasn't for Liz and the team, and by way of doing this sustainability report, the Pulse report. Is there any?
Amazing.
Yes, thank you. I know I'm just rambling on and on, but I'm really excited about this. And I reference this document very often. I feel like it's evergreen, so it's something I'll continuously come back to. I do need to schedule some follow-up calls, and we'll be doing that soon with you all, just to kind of, touch base. And as we begin to grow and expand the business along the journey, there will be things that I'll be needing you all's assistance with. But I mean, it was such a wonderful experience. I just want to encourage each of you to definitely look into this. You may have some doubts like, oh, I'm not sustainable, or this doesn't apply to my business. We're product based. And I would have never thought like, okay, there's things that we're doing that is sustainable. There's things that we can improve upon, or even just, delve into more that we never thought of.
Amazing. First of all, Patrice, congrats on your new space. That's amazing.
Thank you.
As you can see why she's one of our sustainable entrepreneurship ambassadors, because she really took the report, and then it's not, as she said, it's evergreen. It's something that, okay, this is what I'm going to do next. This certifications and standards, that's already something she's working on. So I just wanted, Patrice is going to be here to answer questions too, but wanted you all to see that it is possible that all of these things that we're talking about, which can seem very abstract and outside of the scope of your business, when you look at these things that Patrice is doing in Melon Brand Skin, like these are things that we talked to her, but these are things, the stuff in green was stuff she was already doing. And so I want to highlight, thank you, Patrice. And again, she'll be here for you if you have questions. I want to highlight some of the things that you likely, as WACIF clients, at least the clients that we've worked with so far, examples of what you're already doing in the sustainable space. So when you look at what we're talking about, when you think about certifications and assessments, you're not starting from scratch. So these are the things that we've seen with WACIF clients. They're typically diverse owned. They are local businesses and use local and sustainable suppliers. That might be something that you're doing. They have some written policies. They're managing their electricity, like their energy usage, in terms of trying to use renewable energy, or just turning off the lights to maintain that. Mary earlier mentioned recycling. Like, yeah, I recycle because it's important to me. It's important to my values. Well, all of this counts. And then one of the biggest things I've seen with WACIF clients is this aspect of giving back, the community education and engagement. Patrice didn't mention it, but she actually wrote a book about skincare and what that means. So those are all things that you might think, oh, well, I do that as a matter of course. I do that because it aligns with my values. Well, all of that is contributing to your sustainability journey. And then data security measures. So a lot of, you might not have a whole cybersecurity team. Most of the people we've talked to haven't, but they're using standard products that have those data security measures built in. We're going to talk more about certifications, but if you have an ISO certification, if you have a LEED certification, if you have a certification in your business, all of that is relevant. And any employee trainings that you do in terms of safety or helping your employees develop a supplier code of conduct. So this is what I expect from my suppliers in terms of ethics. If you have a hub zone designation, if you're recruiting for diversity, so not only maybe diverse and locally owned, but you're recruiting diverse candidates or second chance candidates for your company. And then workforce development and training. So these are all things that we have seen with Wake of clients, and probably you all are already doing in terms of sustainability. So you're not starting at the beginning. If you're thinking about, oh man, if they talk to me, I don't know what I'd say. I guarantee you, if we did the gap analysis that we just showed for Patrice, if we did that with your company, that you would have a lot of green on there too. So we just wanted to give you some concrete examples of how that might work in your business. Um, and then certifications. So Patrice mentioned the Leaping Bunny certification, which is a cruelty-free certification, and that, it provides her not only something that she can put on her materials, but also a community. So we're going to get into what some of these different things are. Some of them you might have heard of, some of them you may not have, but we wanted to give you just a baseline. Now, I talk about certifications a lot. I just came from the Certified Up training, as I mentioned. And the idea is not to go out and get all the certifications or assessments or eco labels you can, so that then you can be like, okay, I'm good. I'm done with sustainability. I've made that. I'm done with it. Sustainability is a journey. It's something we're continuously improving on, as Patrice is such a great example of. And so what I want to show you, these things relates directly back to what Mary was talking about in terms of, what do your customers want to see? Do you have a consumer base or do you have a corporate base? Because that's going to affect which of these certifications or assessments is relevant to you. Do you need an assessment or a certification or a label? And what's the difference? An eco label is something that indicates your level of environmental or ethical standards. Leaping Bunny is a good example. You see it, it's on your product. And some of these go back and forth. A certification. So B Corp, Mary mentioned B Corp certification. That is a process or system that's verified to meet specific sustainability standards. So you can think of, I went through a process, I submitted some documentations, and they certified that I meet this level of adherence to the sustainable development goals or adherence to this certain set of criteria. And then a sustainability assessment is an evaluation of your performance, resulting in a score or rating. So, not unlike a certification, you're going to provide documentation, you're going to answer a questionnaire. But the difference is that they're giving you a ranking, but that it's not sort of set in stone. Like, it's not pass fail in essence. It's like you can be bronze, you can be assessed as a bronze business, a silver business, a gold business. I'm using the EcoVadis terms here, but that it recognizes that you're on the certification journey and you can improve as you go. So each of these has a little of independent assurance that you've met specific criteria. So the eco label isn't just like, okay, I'm going to sign up for it and get it. There is some assurance that you have to do. In many cases, our pulse report can help you kind of identify where you fall into that. And the question is, so you might be thinking, all right, so there's labels and certifications and assessments. Which one is right for me? So I want to give you some examples. Again, the idea isn't like, okay, here's your checklist of all the things you need to do. It would be way too many things and an overkill for basically any business we've worked with. But if you think about a consumer business, the eco label is the one that's going to be consumer facing, that your consumer is going to see. Probably the one we're most familiar with is Energy Star on your appliances that are, they are good, they're energy efficient. You'll see that little Energy Star rating. That's an eco label. Same thing with Leaping Bunny that Patrice mentioned. It's a little bunny that goes on your product that says this is cruelty free. And there's other eco labels there. That's so your consumer can see, okay, this is what I'm buying into. This is what I'm buying into at this company. Certification. So B Corp, for example, does have a label that you can put on your products, but it's not just consumer facing. Mary and I both have B2B businesses. And so, yes, we get a little something. You can see in our email signatures and on our websites, but really it's that you've gone through one of these rigorous processes to show that you know about what sustainability is, you know how it applies to your business, and you've made policies and you're taking action toward those things. So B Corp is a good example. Some of you might have heard of the ISO certifications. There's a particular environmental one. And then another thing you probably heard about in the architecture and building space is LEED certification or a WELL certification, which shows that you as a practitioner have the ability to make a space environmentally sustainable, that it's healthy for people, there's plenty of natural light, that the layout is safe. All of those things go into, a LEED certification for a practitioner of those things. And then the last thing are the assessments. The one we work with a lot is EcoVadis. That's one that's widely accepted by, Mary was talking about the corporations that we work with, Capital One and things like that. EcoVadis is a certification that's widely accepted by in the corporate sector. It's an assessment. So you do, just like B Corp, you have to put in your documents, you have to indicate what your goals are, how you're tracking your metrics. You have to do all of that. And that assessment is oftentimes used by corporations to say, okay, we know where you are and we know where you're going with your sustainability. So that's important to us as we as we're doing our own sustainable work, we want to make sure our suppliers are bought into that as well. So those are the different examples of certifications. I expect that there's probably questions, so we'll look forward to that. But the main thing is really going back to here you can see some of the different labels, the Rainforest Alliance, B Corp, 1% for the planet. This is not meant to be completely exhaustive in terms of what we told you. But we really want you to think about, what do my clients want to see? Am I consumer based or am I B2B? Am I doing business with government agencies? Who are your clients, and what's going to be, one, what's important to you, and then two, what's going to be important to them as you seek to showcase what you want them to know. So you have to do a little research. A good way to do it is to start with some of the certifications or assessments or labels that you think are relevant to you, and then seeing, okay, what other companies are involved. You can Google, Eco Label and Target, or Leaping Bunny and Target, and see, is there an indication that these companies that I am looking to do business with care about these certifications? And I say that is true for any certification. You can go out and get them all and rack them up, but you need to have the time and energy to showcase them, to leverage them. And so you want to make sure that you're really looking out for what your clients are looking for. You want to ensure that it's a right fit, both for your company, one that it's not going to take you away from your core business. You have enough time, energy, and resources to pursue the certification itself, and then also leverage it. But you can also take assessments for your own education or when required. So it's one of the great things about the B Corp certification, and I have this link a little bit later, is that you can actually take that certification. You can take the assessment before you get certified and see where you measure up. So if you're thinking about different things, different certifications, you can go in, take that for free without without putting a lot of time and effort into it, to see, okay, what would I need to do to actually pursue this as a certification or take it to the next step? I will tell you that I actually completed the assessment, or rather was working on the assessment for 4 years before I actually got B Corp certified. It is a rigorous certification, and I wasn't prepared to spend all of my time on it. So just letting you know, there you can do that with with that assessment that we'll provide. And then this is probably the most important part. This is like the next follow-up. This is what our sustainable entrepreneurship ambassadors are doing, which is integrating this into your brand marketing and storytelling, right? All the certifications in the world, all the labels and assessments won't do you any good if nobody knows about it. And to truly get the benefits that Mary talked about in terms of what consumers and corporations want to see, in terms of your commitment to the climate, that in terms of retaining and attracting your employees, in terms of reaching out to Gen Z or those consumers that are willing to spend more for eco-friendly products, that has to be integrated into your brand marketing and storytelling. And that's another thing that Patrice is doing a great job on. And then finally, be ready to educate your customers. So Mary's been working on this for 30 years, and we talk about it all the time. There's still people that are going to be like, Rainforest Alliance, huh? B Corp, certainly in our space, in the space we work on, which is many corporate members, they're like, B Corp, what? They don't know what that is. They do know what EcoVadis is. So you want to be able to educate your customer on like, oh, this is what that means. And even after all these years, being a sustainable business, you're going to be kind of at the leading edge of the market, which is great. You have that opportunity to educate customers. So this is the assessment I was talking about. Again, we're going to send you these resources and these links. This is SDG stands for supplier. Sorry, not supplier development, which is what I always talk about. Sustainable development goals. Your sustainable development goals action manager. These are global goals agreed to and put forward by the UN. And so this assessment, which feeds into the B Corp certification, but is not dependent on that. You don't have to get certified to take the assessment. It's based on the UN Sustainable Development Goals. So, and how you match up against those. So you can still take that for free. And I recommend that if you're wondering where to start, that's a place where you can get started and see, all right, how am I really doing? They're saying I'm doing all this stuff. Let me really take stock. So I'm just wrapping up what we've gone through so far. As Mary mentioned, it's a lot. We talked about what is sustainability, the ESG, environmental, social, and governance. We talked about where clients and customers fit in. So you have sustainable values. Presumably, that's why you're here. Where do your clients and customers fit in? What are their expectations? We touched on certifications. Yes, no, which ones? And then gave you some brief next steps to get started. And what I want to show you here is that we also have the ability to offer pulse reports. So you can, if you are interested, you can sign up here. So this is the one-on-one consulting that Patrice mentioned. WACIF is offering a chance for you to work with us at the Fehlig Group to take a deep dive into your business to see where do you match up with the environmental goals, with the social goals, with your governance goals relevant to your industry. That's one of the key things is that we can tell you a million different things, but what's relevant for a fleet of trucks is going to be different for a vegan cafe, right? So we work with you to see, okay, first of all, where are the standards in my industry? Where are the benchmarks? And then where do I fit in? Where can I improve? And so that's what we offer through the Pulse Report. If you hit that QR code, you'll find the form and you'll be able to at least indicate your interest in that. The Sustainable Entrepreneurship Ambassadors. So that Patrice was kind enough to join us today. One of the qualifications to be a part of this program through WACIF is that you've completed the Pulse Report and or received the Green Growth Fund. We haven't talked about the Green Growth Fund yet with this, except the WACIF talked about it as part of their sustainable DC process. They have a loan that's available for companies that are looking to be more sustainable. And with that loan, once it's paid, you also have the opportunity for 15% of that loan to be given to you in a grant when you start paying that loan back. So if you have completed that or received the Green Growth Fund, you have the opportunity to be a Sustainable Entrepreneurship Ambassador. That requires you to set forth some goals based on the recommendations through the Pulse Report. WACIF has entrepreneurs in residence that you have the ability to meet with one-on-one. So you will, as an ambassador, you will meet at least once a month with your entrepreneur in residence that's assigned to you to talk about marketing, operations, financing as it relates to sustainability in your business. And then you represent sustainable entrepreneurship at identified community programs on behalf of WACIF. Like this one, it can also include DC Climate Week, the Fusion Festival. And the benefits you get are visibility and recognition, exclusive networking for our ambassadors and potential buyers or connections, corporations that are interested in doing business with them. Also, the procurement positioning. So, when there's relevant contracting opportunities, we know about your business. Wake Up knows about your business and can position you for that. And then designation. So, you'll, again, that sort of eco label, that visibility that you'll get with something that designates you as a sustainable entrepreneurship ambassador. So if you're interested in that and you've already done the Pulse report or received the Green Growth Fund, definitely reach out. If you're interested in the Pulse report, that QR code, which we'll send out, is where you can start. And so here's the evaluation. Oh, the wrong date is on there, but I promise you it is the right QR code. So please fill that out. And with the next 15 minutes, would love to hear from you in the chat. What didn't we cover? What questions do you have? What comments do you have? And we'll get to it too. And Patrice is here as well if you want to ask her anything. Okay. Let's see. And I think, unfortunately, you can't come off mute, but the chat is available to you. So, and that comes right to us. You might not be able to see it because it comes to the host and panelists, but I promise we can see it. So if you have any questions, go ahead. Mary, did you want to add anything? Oh, Mandira. Oh, hi, Mandira. Good to see you again. You raised your hand. I think you might have to put it in the chat. Or Dina, can you unmute her? Oh, and there's
Sure.
something Renee. Okay. Mandira, are you with us?
She just lowered her hand, but we do have a question in the Q&A.
Oh, she raised it again.
Okay.
Yeah, and then yeah, the Q&A for they're asking for the link to the sustainable.
Okay, sorry, I
Yeah,
was
Oh,
I
go
was
ahead.
typing, but then I said heard you could unmute me. Well, as I hi again, Liz. As I
Hi.
mentioned, I am a lead accredited professional, and been very committed to sustainable design and lifestyle too, both personally and professionally, mm, since my 20s. And luckily for the product that I was sharing with you earlier in the earlier webinar, made a hard decision, picked up a poly envelope that is compostable. And the reason I'm saying it was a hard decision wasn't, I was like willing to pay more and to do the right thing. They just have a huge label. And I was on the email with them and a phone call saying, can you, put it in a more less prominent place, because it's coming, it's in the design of the envelope. As a designer, how it's presented anyways. But I almost made the choice to go with just a poly envelope for the pop-up card that I was sharing with you that's going on the retail shelf. But then I said, no, all these plastic bags, I couldn't see it happening. So opted for the compostable envelope, despite the logo being so huge. Hopefully they'll make the change. But that's what I wanted to share. But I also am very curious to know, as a startup and an entrepreneur LLC, I have a lead AP. How can that help me in my area of interest?
Yeah, so I always think that sustainability is a differentiator and more so now. And I'll let Mary answer in a little bit, but I think for now, because I know you're a startup business because you were on the last call, that even just sort of cataloging what you're doing, like for example, we, made the choice to switch from non-compostable envelopes for shipping to compostable envelopes. Cataloging those things in the categories of environmental, social, and governance, and just doing, having it on your website, having it on a blog, having it in, if you have LinkedIn, a LinkedIn article, that this is what we're doing, saying it publicly. It doesn't have to be, depending on what you want to achieve, again, the different assessments or certifications, you don't have to immediately start measuring your greenhouse gases or doing an extensive audit. It can just start talking about your values, and then you will attract people that have the same values as you. And I think that's a great way to start. Mary, do you want to add anything?
No, I think I wanted to say when you were talking about all the eco lab labels and certifications and assessments, they're all just communication vehicles. They're a way to communicate to a stakeholder. That's, you need to think about it that way. And what to amplify what Liz is saying is that, so really it's the kind of the first place is how do you talk to your customers now and make sure this is part of your story. I am going to say, specifically, around the lead AP, it's to go look at the people that you're interested that you work with or you're interested in looking at and see what they're saying. They'll probably say we're very proud that we have so many lead professionals that we partner with or that we hire or it's go look and see what they're saying about relationships with professionals that have that lead accredited that are acknowledged as a accredited professional in lead certification. So there's often times where I go to, and we do this for clients, and part of the Pulse report is look and find out if given, you tell us who your clients are and we'll tell you to Liz's point about what certifications they're looking at, what's a good vehicle to talk to them. But that said, all those certifications are very important. And and being a WACIF ambassador is a way of telling, it's a communication out that says this matters to me. This is something that I'm integrating into my business. So tell it in the
Yeah.
same, use the same communication vehicles you use to tell your story.
I
Yes.
think I haven't been telling my story. I've been, of course, trying to promote the workshop, and now I'm getting ready to promote the product. But yeah, these stories, because I looked at all the materials, and every one of them is uh, compostable, acid-free. So I was just really happy. Even the one that I thought may not be turned out to be, I was just like, wow, this is great.
Mhm.
Fantastic. Anyone else with the question? I think we answered the question in the chat. You've got the links there, as well for the Pulse report, and more information about the Sustainable Entrepreneurship Ambassador Program. And then also, last but not least, our evaluation form, because we'd love to hear your feedback, love to hear what you want more of, what you want less of. So that's in the Q&As and the answers too, is that evaluation form. So we'd love to hear from you. Anything else?
I wanted to amplify what you all.
Uh-oh. Oh, great.
It is included in this, what's considered a sustainable business practice. And we see that a lot, where company, especially and you would know it, these are your companies, you're living your values, and there are stakeholders that want to know about it. The gap analysis looks daunting, but and as Patrice mentioned, it's a roadmap. One, we want to say you're probably doing a lot of it already, but the other is it's a roadmap. And at any point in the game, I say like the B Corp that Liz and I referred, that's probably one of the most, the most rigorous general sustainability tools out there. But the impact, the link that's presented in this is, it's actually what it is. It's the United Nations went to B Corp and used their methodology to just give you all a grounding of how do I get started? What's considered? Because that's what's been so confusing. Well, what is and what isn't, considered a sustainable business practice? And that's where you're going to go and find out, one, I already do that, or yeah, that's a great idea. Um, and then the other thing is, if you start talking to people about it, it's going to be really eye-opening. We have a client or somebody came to a training, and after the training, she was a roofer. She went to her industry. They now have a subgroup on sustainability and roofing, and then the group of them went, and now they have do presentations and courses at the local university. You don't have to go that nuts, but it's really exciting about what's going on and kind of being invited in it. And again, I will. It's one of the things I've been talking to Megan about with WACIF and Liz, is that what WACIF and their approach to sustainability understand, it's not just a training, a one-on-one. It's kind of, it's a journey, and then the way they are presenting it is that they're understanding it. They're building a relationship with the sustainable ecosystem, by bringing people in the different ways that they can, and then supporting them. And as Liz says, yes, the Pulse report, we're real proud of that, but then the accountability partners to really operationalize it is way beyond anything we're seeing. So cannot speak enough about taking advantage of what's being offered.
Thank you, Mary. And thank you, Liz. I think is it time to wrap up?
Mm-hmm.
I think we can, unless people have questions, but yeah, I think we're good to go.
Okay. Well, yeah, thank you so much for this wonderful training. And thank you everyone for participating. Today we did drop many, many links. I'm going to drop one more. I apologize, which is the events link for WACIF. So monitor that for upcoming sustainability focused trainings. And please sign up for our email as well. And then you'll see a variety of emails that come out that share all things WACIF. And then, yeah, look forward to seeing you at our next training or event.
Yes. Someone did ask, do I have to be in DC to take advantage of the Pulse report? And we fill out the interest form, and that'll help us identify where you are and if it's in the WACIF space. But you don't necessarily have to be in DC proper, but fill out the form and we'll get in touch. So wonderful. We will have more of these trainings coming up. We will have office hours, so we look forward to working with you on your sustainability journey. Thank you.
Have a good day, everyone.
Okay, bye-bye.